From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson, joined by my dear friend over the phone.
Oh, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV, yours truly, Hector Bosa. And today is my day. It feels like my birthday is today, because today is St. Valentine's Day. And do you know that I have a book scheduled for tonight?
A book schedule?
I barely have time to breathe. I have to stoop a lot. I have to do a lot of eating tonight. I have to do a lot tonight. How about yourself?
As for me, you mean?
Yes. Valentine's Day, stooping her, doing something for her, besides taking her out, taking care of her.
Well, after the show, I'm actually going with my beloved out to dinner.
And then afterwards,
it's back
you're
home.
going to take really good care of her.
Back home.
Oh, so you're going to take care of her at home. Very good. Good. Hey, I hope you stand strong, brother. But
I know, me too.
Speaking of standing strong, the foot game, well, you were right about the point. You were right about the point. It was 4, right? I forgot even the score already.
I think it was 23-20.
20-20. And the Simpsons predicted 31-30. But they did predict that Cincinnati and LA would play each other.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you think of the game?
The game was very good. It was close all throughout from the beginning, and it seemed like neither team would be willing to give up an inch. So when you think about it, there wasn't really that many terrible plays, but at the same time, there were some mistakes that were given up. Probably the biggest mistake was Joe Burrow trying to throw the ball while he was being brought down on a sack attempt.
Well, that one, but I think
But then again, it's pretty anticlimactic, to be honest with you.
I think the first mistake was that they didn't call that face mask call.
Oh, yeah. That was obvious, but the problem was the line judge who saw the whole thing wound up being shielded because both players had their backs to the line judge, so there was no way that he could probably call it.
But normally you have extra referees for those type of games. So I don't know how you missed that, but there is always a way. And I'm surprised nobody in the coach's staff seen it or anything of that nature. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure, they have to talk to the people upstairs.
Right.
So they have to see replays because they're probably watching regular TV. So they're probably watching. And I don't know if you can actually call for a replay on that. You can actually stop the game to see if there was a penalty on that. I don't know. But I think that was one of the problems that you had. And then towards the end of the game, where, Cincinnati could have won this game.
They certainly could have, yes.
But, for the LA quarterback, getting picked off, I think he was sacked about 7 times. Mm-hmm. He was picked in crucial points of the game.
Yeah.
And like I said, that face mask, the score would have been a lot closer if it wasn't for that face mask. But towards the end of the game, it seems like they were trying to pay back for the mistake that they made.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was another call. It was a non-call that they said that one of the Cincinnati Bengals grabbed one of the guy holding, and there was no holding there.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, another penalty came. A double penalty came.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, it was as if, okay, do you really want LA to win? Because, like I said, you blew a call, so you made up the call for them, it seemed.
Mm-hmm.
So if the game was, all in all, the game was good.
Yeah.
Except for the ending, because right away there was penalty. Why were there so many penalties? Towards the whole entire game, not too many penalties were called.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, towards the end of the game, penalty after penalty after penalty, a non-call penalty.
Yeah.
But they did deserve to win. I mean, like you said, the quarterback was pressured. He threw the ball wildly, but he had to. And I don't think the receiver was ready. He wasn't ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
But he had to do something because it was 4th and 1.
Yeah.
So, and I've always wondered, how you cannot score on 4th and 1. Even though it's more than 4th and 1, because by the time, if it's, the quarterback is standing further out, he's standing 5 yards back or 4 yards back. So it's more than 1 yard by the time he gets to the football and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, the game was good.
Mm-hmm.
But towards the end, those penalties.
Yeah.
God. And like I said, those 2 no calls. And then the, what's his name, that receiver that messed up his knee.
Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, I felt bad for him.
Mm-hmm. He finally got to the big game, and then roughly halfway through, he winds up tearing his ACL again. That was the same ACL tear that he suffered when he was on the Giants.
Yeah, and it was something. Was it playing against the Cincinnati Bengals or was it playing against LA?
Who are you talking about?
When he messed up his knee the first time.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, he wound up mangling his knee when he was a Giant. Or he could have been a Cleveland Brown. I'm not really sure.
But all I know is that it was, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of betting going on.
Yeah.
Such as what color was the Gatorade? Who scored first? Who would be the guy to score first? What did you think of the MVP?
Let's see. If I'm not mistaken, Cooper Kupp was named the game's most valuable player, right?
Right.
He had a tremendous game.
Towards the end.
Towards the end, yeah.
Said, yeah, towards the end when it really counted, because he couldn't rely on any other receiver except him.
Yeah. Well, they've got a really good working chemistry going together.
Yeah, so but I'm keep on looking at would Odell Beckham Jr. would have made a difference.
Yeah. You know what?
If he didn't hurt his knee.
It's a good thing that Matthew Stafford had a really good core of receivers that he could work with, because Odell Beckham Jr. was basically the discoverer of the fountain of youth, with the way he was able to not only score a touchdown, but make himself open during a lot of pass plays. But
do you think he'll retire?
I doubt it. There is one guy who's been rumored to be, two guys actually, who've been rumored to be calling it a career. One is Andrew Whitworth, the longtime offensive lineman, and the other is Aaron Donald, who's their star defensive nose guard. Not sure if they're going to be calling it quits anytime soon, but if they do, the Rams are going to really miss those two because, number one, Aaron Donald did a terrific job of pressuring the passer, and number two, he's probably ripe for another Super Bowl or two.
Well, what are the chances of them making it again? That's the other thing. I mean, if you have been in the league for certain years and you know your body's breaking down, and you want to still have some survival left on your body,
right?
Because you take a lot of a beating. Why not retire on top?
That's a good point.
You know, just say, "Hey, I won. I'm retiring. Thank you. Bye. I did what I had to do. This is what I really wanted. I don't think I'm gonna see another game again." Or what he can do is stay in shape and then go, "All right, I'm ready to play." You know, stay in shape, act like he's retiring, and then change his mind in the middle of the season and say, "Okay, I'm ready to play."
If he decides to retire and he's working out, usually a workout is the first sign of somebody trying to make a comeback.
Right. Because I heard Tom Brady wants to make a comeback too because he really did have a good year.
He had a really good regular season.
I think that.
But it didn't come from his mouth. It probably came from one of his teammates on the Buccaneers, namely Rob Gronkowski.
All I know is that, you know, it's tough for a guy like him because you really want to, if you're going to retire, you might as well retire while you win, not in the losing. And if you think you still got it, you know, it all depends, you know, mentally what he's doing, but who knows? But give the Cincinnati Bengals their due. They had the game.
Yeah, they played well. You know, overall, they did have a good game, but that last drive that the Rams went on, not only was it a classic drive of football, but we saw that Matthew Stafford is not as terrible as the critics make him out to be.
Yeah, and you felt bad for the other guy, too, the other quarterback.
Joe Burrow?
Yeah, because think of it this way, you know, and as I said before, you're winning the majority of the time. And then all of a sudden, it's like the Knicks blowing the fourth quarter. You know, here you have a big lead. You're showing that you're a great team. And then 2 minutes left, and you show how bad you are. You know, you can't close it out. So that's the way I look at it. You're showing that you're a great team from 1 to 3. And then all of a sudden, that fourth quarter, the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, like I said, I think it was the penalties helped the Rams a lot. But I think the connection between the quarterback and the receiver, it was, I mean, the only person that I can think of was Eric Dickerson.
Yeah.
That's the only guy that you can really rely on. And they knew he was going to get the ball, but you just couldn't stop him. So, yeah. And then, you know, they say that defensive guy should have had it, the MVP too, because the guy that sacked the quarterback, And also, they made a big deal about Odell Beckham Jr. crying.
Well, he was crying because he was unable to return to the game to try and make an impact.
No, towards the end of the game, though, you see a picture of him crying because they won.
Mm-hmm.
He was so overwhelmed by the fact that he won.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was a damn good game.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, the drive to L.A., those two guys connecting each other at the last quarter in the under 5 minutes. I would think it was a minute and 34 seconds. Well, no, it was a minute and 38. That's when they started connecting until the 1 yard disaster when penalties were flying around and a non-call was called.
Mm-hmm.
So, there wasn't that many mistakes. There weren't that many penalties.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of sacks by Cincinnati, like I said, but like I said, I think the quarterback for the Rams got sacked 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he still was able to win.
Yeah.
And I think they were comparing it to, I think, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Terry Bradshaw, where he got sacked 9 times but still was able to pull it off.
Yeah.
And win the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, they were favored. They were favored to win. And what can you say about the football game besides the commercials and the halftime show?
Well, I loved the halftime show because finally the hip-hop nation and the hip-hop community could finally be accepted into Super Bowl halftime lore.
Well, they were always there. They just never dominated. They were always there, but they were there, but they were not in the front. Because you had, who was it? Dr. Dre,
Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige too, and then a surprise visit from 50 Cent
and Kendrick Lamar.
Mm-hmm. And Kendrick Lamar was there as well.
And I'm going, okay. Now I don't know how you've seen it on your TV, but did it seem as if it was pre-taped?
No.
Because I don't know how clear your TV was, but I have to tell you, when I was watching it, it went from clear, and then they changed it as if it was pre-taped. The quality of the taping of how they were shooting it, I don't know what they were using, but it seemed as if at times it seems as if it was pre-taped, and that some of them lip-synced. I know there was a 3-second delay in case there was any curses, because they didn't want a poor Janet bomb, which was ridiculous because you really didn't see nothing. It was 2 seconds. Come on. People were yelling and screaming as if they never seen an areola or nipple, And it's funny because you know that when you're dealing with TV, you know to have a clean version and you know to have a dirty version.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a rapper, I think 2 years ago, that did his thing, and he was cussing up a storm. He was doing the show. He was doing the rap song as it was, and they had to bleep it.
I don't remember that, to be honest with you.
So I'm just going by the quality of how it was taped, and then on Bleacher Report, the majority of them were saying it sucked, it was garbage, and one person said it seemed as if it was on a tape delay. That's the quality.
But how would one know that this was a tape delay, though?
I don't know, but I'm telling you, from what I've seen it. And Rosanna said the same thing. Was
Hector, you there? Hector? Well, it looks like he's having some technical difficulties. So, while we try to get him back... Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Well, like I was saying, Hector seems to be going through some technical difficulties with the phone again. So in the meantime...
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go. Are you able to hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I was able to hear you.
Okay.
As I said, it went from HD to SP because it seemed as if, I'm telling you, and then 50 Cent hanging upside down was ridiculous. You barely understood the guy. I mean, I think having them perform was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the way they shot it was terrible. Like I said, I don't know if there was a delay or something, but it seems as if they went from HD to vintage shooting. It seemed theatrical.
I
as
see.
If they pre-taped the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part I didn't like. And then they lip sync. Some of the performers did lip sync, and I think Eminem was one of them. And there was a controversial thing going on. Did you see the big controversy?
I must be missing something here because I wasn't made aware of anything of that nature.
The big controversy was, from what I understand, and I think Rosanna read this, I give her credit for actually watching the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in reading about it, and I think she read that, you know how you're not supposed to take a knee in the football game?
Yeah.
Eminem took a knee, and they told him not to.
To each their own.
And you see, but mind you, they told him not to do it, but he wound up doing it anyway, which is great for those people that understand what the knee is still.
Yeah.
Because they don't talk about the knee anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that it's against. Now let's go back a little bit. The knee stands for the injustice of the minority people that have been that have gotten injustice, that have gotten killed for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what the knee stands for. Not against America, not against the American flag, nothing of that nature. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get that out of the way because there are going to be people that are going to say, oh, no, that's not true. Because he was protesting in his own way.
Yep.
He took a knee. That was the big controversy. But like I said, what can you say about the football game that hasn't been already said?
Well, I thought the game was very good. Wasn't great, but it was very good. And the way the way the Rams were able to finish things off with their last drive is just a testament to how good of a team they really are.
Yeah, like I said, a minute 38 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they started. And I tell you something. It was just one of those things. Now, in the ratings, you wasn't expecting the Cincinnati Bengals and the LA Rams.
No one did.
It's not sexy enough. It's not like having the Cowboys. The Cowboys always bring you ratings. The 49ers always bring you ratings.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants bring you ratings. If the Jets would ever make it, they would bring you ratings.
Mm-hmm. I would think that this one would draw quite a few ratings because of one of the teams involved, which is the Rams. They're in the second largest market in the country.
Yeah, but are they a sexy team like the 49ers or the Cowboys or the Steelers? They don't have the lineage or anything of that nature.
Well,
that's the thing. They're normally in the hunt. Pittsburgh, Dallas, once in a while the Giants, because they've won. They've won. When was the last time LA won?
When was the last time the Rams won?
Yeah.
1999.
Wow.
By the way, the Rams made history in a couple of in a couple of areas. Number one, their head coach Sean McVay. He's now the youngest head coach to win a Super Bowl. He's only 36.
Mm-hmm.
And the other first is the fact that the Rams are now the first team to win Super Bowls in two different cities. Their first Super Bowl was when they were the St. Louis Rams. Now this last night as the Los Angeles Rams.
Wow, that's something.
Mm-hmm.
That's something. All I want to know is how is the lawsuits going to come out?
Depends on which one you're talking about.
With the football league about not hiring any minority people.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit of.
And I'm going to say minority. I'm not going to say one color or one race. I'm saying minority in general. Some people like to say one race or one race or one color. I like to say minority.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you notice, not everybody gets a shot.
No.
Because who's the last Asian coach that you've seen? Who's the last Hispanic coach that you've seen? Flores?
Yeah, Brian Flores is
the
I think Puerto Rican descent.
The one guy? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows? Because we're all mixed anyway in some shape or form.
Mm-hmm.
But there you have the problem with that. And baseball, I sent you an article yesterday.
Yeah, it's not looking good for them.
And as I told you, I think they want to do something with bonuses and certain things that they want to pay. And like I said, that practice, what they do with the minor league system, so that they don't have to bring them up and pay them more, something of that nature. And you said it last night that they may not even start.
Yeah. I hate to say this, but I don't think we're going to be having a full spring training. Because both sides, not just the union, but the owners, have made their proposals, and they have not been met with any fanfare whatsoever. So now we're basically waiting for a season to begin, yet neither side can come up with a deal.
Well, here's the problem that you're having. The owners that get the money from the people that go over the luxury tax.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, some of the teams are getting smarter now. They're trying to stay under the salary cap the majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 3 of them that's gone over, which is the Mets, the Yankees, and the Dodgers. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from what I remember, is they're supposed to take that money and give it to the poorer teams. But the problem is that the poor teams, they can't get the big hitter because nobody wants to play in certain states.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, let's go back to a lot of people would like to play in New York because it's a sexy thing.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of media coverage and so on.
Mm-hmm.
L.A., Atlanta, sexy teams because they've been in the playoffs, they have lineage and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But who wants to play in other clubs? And then you got certain owners that pocket that money instead of spending it.
Wow.
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Miami. Miami has a deal where they every 3 years they'll become great, and then they can't afford to pay the top guy. They have to let him go because they can't afford him.
This is where Derek Jeter comes in because he's the Marlins owner. And so far, the Marlins have made countless questionable moves that they should be accounted for.
Well, first of all, they're not drawing that many people. And I'm surprised. But because,
I'm not.
It's a warm place. It's a warm place. You have a lot of people that enjoy baseball over there. But I'm not even talking about I'm talking about smaller clubs that should be spending money and they don't. The owners do not spend the money that they get. And when you're in a tough market, that you're saying to someone, please come play with us, please come play with us, and then you have to pay this guy, well, you have to pay us for 7 years. 7 years contract for a bloated amount of money. That's when I'll come to you. Even though your team stinks, but if you pay me this amount of money, and then when you ask for a trade, it's hard for you to trade him because he's got a bloated contract.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that going on. And as I said, the owners pocket the money.
Yeah.
And the luxury tax was supposed to distribute the wealth. That's how come some people are saying put a cap on it. That way you have to spend the money. Everybody's on equal terms. But nobody wants that either. The Baseball Association doesn't want it, and I don't blame them. Because you have the TV rights that are making more money hand and foot.
Mm-hmm.
And also, they're going to probably be using the computer umpires probably by next year.
They're already going to use them in the minor leagues.
AAA.
Especially AAA.
Right. They started to use it. So you have that problem coming up because you're going to get a lot of pitchers that are not going to like it. And I think it's going to drag on even more now.
This could be an insult to baseball umpires and the sport of baseball in general, having these robots for umpires.
Well,
it's totally taking away from the human element.
Well, here's the thing. There's two ways of looking at it. You can't bribe a computer unless you know the programmer.
You can't argue with the computer either.
Right, exactly. And two, a lot of the pitchers get called the balls and strikes because the umpire knows how they pitch. But if you go by the rules and regulations, that's going to be fun because the computer has no leeway.
Mm-hmm.
it's as they say, there's black and white and no gray. There's no gray in the middle.
Right.
So that's going to be fun. And the biggest one of them all, the baseball purists must be pulling their hair out. There will be a DH in the National League this year.
Mm-hmm. That's assuming that we even have a season.
Right. And, the baseball purists say, well, we like the, taking the pitcher out, the double switch. But think about it. If you have pitchers that can hit instead of just bunting all the time or striking out, but there's a mental game to it.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, baseball's very boring.
I don't find it boring.
And I'm saying for a lot of people, not for other people, not for the purists.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not. I mean, you got a game that takes 3 hours. There's not that much hitting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a football game, where you're going to see a score of 15-14.
Yeah.
Do you know how many pitches are going to have to be used for a 15-14 game every time?
Yeah, about 10.
Exactly. So, and it's kind of funny that baseball's having that problem because they're trying to make it big again.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to make baseball really good again like before. But that's how come they're dropping they're bringing back the DH. Now, I can't believe. Now, here's the thing that I don't understand. Some teams are having problems with the DH. With the DH system, trying to find a DH hitter.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible? I mean, I know it's hard just coming off the bench and getting a hit and then going back and then not playing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get about 4 at bats.
Right.
But that's very hard to do for a lot of players. But when I start hearing, now that we have the DH, the designated hitter, it's going to be tough for some teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going in my head, well, how's that tough? Explain it to me. How is that tough?
I couldn't even begin to tell you.
And mind you, I've played ball before, and as I said before, coming off the bench and hitting is very hard, and so on. But when you're telling me that you can't find a person to get up and hit,
Mm-hmm.
so. And there was a lot of people that retired, too, this year as
Yeah.
well for baseball. But it's funny. And, speaking of blockbuster trades,
Right.
what did you think of the NBA trades this year?
Which trade?
The NBA trades. The Kristaps Porzingis. They got rid of him. The Dallas Mavericks are saying that they were not going to get rid of him. The owners said, we're not going to get rid of him. They got rid of him.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, we cannot forget James Harden for Ben Simmons in a 5-player deal.
What did you think of that?
Honestly, I think it was basically addition by subtraction. James Harden's behavior.
You liked the trade?
Did I like the trade?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't have a problem with it because Ben Simmons isn't going to be relied upon to score. That's why they have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
But that's what we were talking about before, because I thought you didn't like the trade because he doesn't score. But then when you have other scorers around you, they don't want him to score. They need him for defense and to pass.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
And some of the other players that they received, they're supposed to do the scoring.
Mm-hmm.
And James Harden, again, he looks bad.
And
I sent you another article about that.
Mm-hmm. And his bad behavior has basically cost him a spot on the Nets. Let's see if he can take some of the pressure off of Joel Embiid, who right now is the guy for the Sixers.
Well, here's the thing, you know, and that is, did Harden leave because he couldn't get along with Kyrie Irving?
I'm not too sure about that.
Because as the article said, Kyrie Irving didn't want to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
So he's hurting his team by not getting vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Whether people like it or not, I'm for getting vaccinated. There's a lot of people that are not for getting vaccinated because they think that the shot is supposed to be to actually prevent it. And as I talked about before, and if you read it out there, it's supposed to be a preventative, but not to permanently stop it. It's so that instead of catching pneumonia, you catch the flu.
Yeah.
Okay? But you have people doing so much research, and then Kyrie Irving goes in there. We have a state that says if you don't get vaccinated, you can't play. So he's hurting his team that way. And then James Harden said, I'll even give him the shot. So if you got a guy, so was it Kyrie Irving's fault or was it James Harden's fault as well? You'll never know because James Harden doesn't open up his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and then I was reading that, I don't know if it's the same article that I sent you from Bleacher Report, and that is, I don't think he asked for the trade because he said if he asked for the trade, it makes him look bad.
Yeah.
It already makes him look bad. It already makes him look bad because you have Kyrie Irving ecstatic that he's gone.
Yeah. Or eager, if you want to.
Oh yeah, eager. You're
follow
right,
what
eager.
the media had said.
Right, exactly. And, you know, and then Kyrie Irving practicing the American Indian way with all his rituals. And from the article. And it's just funny how you have James Harden, one of the best scorers in the league, one of the best assist guys in the league too.
Yeah.
Because he was assisting in everything, and when all three were on the court, it was magic.
Yeah, that's
Even
why
though they have other superstars like Blake Griffin. That's an all-star team right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because the majority of the team have been in the All-Star game.
Right.
Think about it. But, you know, they didn't match. And now this blockbuster trade.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people like because Simmons is younger.
Yeah, and taller.
But, and then they're saying, oh, well, James Harden's breaking down. James Harden has a bad attitude.
Well, he certainly showed a bad attitude by basically getting himself traded to Philly, a division rival.
Did he ask for the trade? Because, you know, that thing, you didn't hear him say, I want out. You never hear him say, I want out. And two, you'll never hear until he finishes his play time.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never hear the truth. on why he left.
Yeah.
Unless he comes out and says, this is exactly why I left.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, you don't know if you're going to believe him or not, because you know what's going to come out of his mouth.
Right.
Because, as you know, social media has a lot of problems with circulating
Mm-hmm.
and getting information.
Yeah.
You know? So, who in that trade, who wins out more? Did the Nets win? Did the Nets get the better of the trade, or did Philly get the better of the trade?
Philly got the better of the trade because not only do they have a number one scorer or secondary scorer, he can take some of the pressure off of Joel Embiid and open up the middle with his three-point shooting.
Well, all I can say is this, and that is that to win now,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Nets have the better chance of winning. Now,
Mm-hmm.
down the line, if those two other guards that Philly didn't want to give up, like Maxey and them, show up down the line, if Harden can still hold up, then that's a better trade. But for now, I think, according to the media again, the Nets got a better trade. The Nets got the better of it.
I could
But
see
that's
why,
according to
because
social
not only
media.
did they get Ben Simmons, they also got a really dangerous three-point shooter in Seth Curry, and they also got themselves some front line
center.
help.
Yeah, they got a center out of it, too.
Mm-hmm. Andre Drummond.
Right. So, and then 2 number 1 draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you hear that the guy that wanted him, is he the GM? The Philly Maloney, I think his name is.
Oh, you mean Daryl Morey?
Yeah. Did you hear that he may have tampered?
That's what I heard too.
He has a problem with tampering.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fun because he got caught once, and now they're going to investigate to see if he tampered again with the James Harden trade.
Yeah.
So that, and then on the other side of the court, the mighty New York Knicks, who show brilliancy that they could, when they work as a team, they're a fantastic team, and then break down, as always, in the fourth quarter.
How many times do I have to keep on telling you they're not
With
mighty?
2 minutes left, because think of it this way. If you can get a 20-point lead and you're playing against a damn good team, you're showing that if your head's in the game and everything's right, you guys play a dynamite game together. And then all of a sudden, why is it that in the fourth quarter, when it comes to less than 2 minutes, all of a sudden everything breaks down?
They have no clue how to play for 48 minutes.
You have a coach that didn't want Cam Reddish, right? Now, and then you have, in my opinion, you had players that you could have traded, but you don't know what you were going to get out of it. And then you have social media. This is where I blame social media and all those reports. Because if you read, and you read the newspaper, you read the internet, and you start reading all these other people that say this guy's going to be traded. Several teasers for Julius Randle. And they want Mitchell Robertson. 3 teams wanted Mitchell Robertson. They wanted this guy, and they wanted that guy, and the Lakers wanted Cam Reddish. They make it seem as if there's a bunch of players that they have good to great players that teams want.
Mm-hmm.
And then when there's no trade, you hear guys on the radio, terrestrial radio as they like to call it now, and on theory, and they like to say, well, who do they have to trade? Those same people that are saying, yeah, we can trade them, are the same people that are going, who did the Knicks have to trade?
Mm-hmm.
They the first year, they didn't make the playoffs. They were rebuilding. They're doing something that they haven't done in a very long time, which is not make a stupid trade to get an older, broken-down player. They're not trading 5 guys for 2 to get a broken-down player. Oh, and they're not ready to get that player yet.
Mm-hmm.
2, when was the last time the Knicks are still a young team.
I know.
Okay? But if you have you have a revolving door with the coaches that the Knicks have had. There's no stability. I'm hearing fire Tom Thibodeau now because he doesn't like playing the young guys.
He never has liked playing younger players. He likes to go with veterans.
Yeah, because he can trust them more.
Yeah.
And he didn't want Cam Radish.
That was basically an addition for subtraction deal because they finally rid themselves of Kevin Knox.
And they got a number 2 draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But what happened that the Knicks could make a trade?
For one, they really did not have anybody of substance that they could try and use as a pawn to make a deal with.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is true.
I disagree with you on that because if you read all the articles, even the ones that I sent you, Julius Randle had 7 teams wanting him. Mitchell Robertson, 3 teams wanting him. Cam Radish, 2 teams wanting him. You have social media telling you all the players and all the teams that they have, that teams want all the Knicks players, and then all of a sudden you get to hear people just like yourself now saying, well, the Knicks don't have nobody to trade. But all you read in social media and you hear people saying in the beginning, oh, well, we got this guy to trade. We got that guy to trade. Kemba Walker's easy to trade. This guy's easy to trade. Alex Burks is ready to go. Do you understand?
Why would anybody want Julius Randle and his bloated contract for?
His contract is not that bloated. His contract is very simple. He didn't ask for a max. First of all, he didn't ask for a max contract, which he could have gotten. Secondly, you forget that they made the playoffs last year. And just because they screwed up this year doesn't give, now if they don't do nothing next year, then you have a problem. But there have been many other teams that have gone through a spell, make the playoffs, and then go through a spell again.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go, oh, well, there's nobody on the team, blah, blah, blah. They're not playing well now. Half those players, and you know this by Knicks history, when they go to other teams, they win championships. Look at the history. J.R. Smith.
Oh, brother.
All them other guys. Timothy Mozgov. You didn't think he was going to win, but he won. You got all those players that were traded that say, oh, they're not good, they stink, and blah, blah, blah. But when they go to other teams, they've won. Now, because the other
Which is an
teams,
indictment on the Knicks because they don't know how to develop guys.
well, that's the problem, too. Because, like you said, like I said, you have a coach that doesn't, because now they're saying, play the young guys, play the young guys. Play the young guys. Play Cam Radish more. Forget Kimber Walker. But as I've been saying before, which is you can't always play the young guys if the coach has to win games. You know, if you play the young guys all the time and you still lose, you can take that for a year. But you can't take it for 2 years or 3 years straight. Because
1 year
say,
is
oh,
1
the
year
coach is
too
loud.
many.
Huh?
1 year is 1 year too many.
No, because if you're a team that's starting up with a new coach, you're going to have, and you're starting to develop players, you're going to have growing pains between 1 to 2 years. Tops.
Mm-hmm.
The third year, you have to start developing. Because remember, you have the revolving door with the New York Knicks and the coaches. And it's always a different coach, which has a different system and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, not making excuses for them, because remember, look at other teams that have done the same thing. If you compare them to other teams that have gone similar to what the Knicks go through, you'll say, okay, I understand, but they're a better organization because at least they've developed their players. The only person that's developing right now is R.J. Barrett.
And what does
And
that say
somewhat
about the
Mr.
other
Robert.
guys on the roster?
It's saying that last year they had a perfect year, and this year something's wrong. You're either going to put, now again, as I was saying before, which is if you have, let's say, 2 years straight that you're losing, and they're not developing, it's the coach is he's got to look out for his job. People keep on saying, play the young guys, play the young guys, play the young guys, but he's got to look out for his job. So you can't always get what you want without losing something else. I would like to
You
see him
say
play
that
the
again.
young guys more. Huh?
I say you can say that again.
I would like to see him play the young guys more and see what they can do. Because if you're there supposedly to coach the young team. You're there because of your experience, and you're there because you're one of the best coaches in the league. Develop these guys. But when you have a reputation of not wanting, you wanted veterans because you can trust them more, but they still hired them anyway, what does that tell you about the organization?
That they have a long ways to go.
Either they couldn't find anybody, or they couldn't find a coach that wanted that job, or they wanted someone that wanted that job. But you have a situation where it's going to take 2 to 3 years to develop these guys. If you don't see them develop by that time, then you have to get rid of the coach.
Well, we could continue with this for another hour, but unfortunately we just have 30 seconds left. So this is the part where I say thank you.
You're welcome, and don't forget, Happy Valentine's Day. Tonight is my night. Hopefully tonight will be your night, and hopefully I'll hear some good news that you'll probably have kids soon or so forth, or you did your duty, at least for today anyway.
Well, for everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Happy Valentine's Day, folks. Good night.
Happy Valley.